and welcome to HavenLight. I'm Emily Cano. Today we're going to talk about awakening through love, what awakening really is, where it begins, what shifts inside a person when love becomes the force that breaks them open, and how we awaken through the presence of the Christ within us, not through religion, but through relationship, remembrance, and the deep lived experience of divine love. Awakening begins with love, not lightning. When most people talk about awakening, they describe the outer things first: visions, synchronicities, psychic gifts, intuitive downloads, energy surges, spiritual sensitivity. But awakening rarely begins with fireworks. It begins with something much quieter and far more powerful. It begins with love. Not romantic love, not idealized love, not perfect relationship love. It begins with the kind of love that rearranges your insides, the kind of love that won't let you stay asleep, the kind of love that steps into the room when your world is falling apart, the kind of love that doesn't demand, it awakens, the kind of love that breaks you open so you can finally see clearly. Awakening begins when love becomes the turning point. When something in your life collapses or shifts so deeply that it shakes everything inside you, and suddenly you realize that God, Source, the Divine, has stepped into a moment you will never forget. For me, awakening didn't start with visions. It didn't start with energy. It didn't start with mystical experiences at all. It started the night Jesus came to my mother. The night everything changed, not because of religion, not because of doctrine, but because love entered the room through someone I trusted. And from that moment forward, something in me began to remember. Something in me began to awaken. Something in me that had been asleep for years, maybe lifetimes, started rising. Not because I was searching for spirituality, not because I was seeking gifts, not because I was chasing enlightenment, but because love had touched me so deeply that it called something ancient and holy inside me back to life. Awakening is always a story of love. Love is the real activator. Love is the real initiator. Love is the real key. Everything else, visions, gifts, intuition, wisdom, comes after. When I talk about Jesus in the context of awakening, I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about man-made rules, denominational boxes, or the fear-based doctrines many of us were raised under. I'm talking about a brother, a guide, a way-shower, a presence of pure love who steps into your life exactly when you're ready to remember who you really are. For many people, the name Jesus carries baggage. They've heard him used to shame, to control, to judge, to condemn. And honestly, those versions of him don't awaken anything. They shut people down. But that's not the Jesus I know. The Jesus I know, the one who met me during the darkest moments of my life, was gentle, warm, steady, unconditionally present. He didn't shame me. He didn't demand anything from me. He didn't stand above me. He came beside me, like an older brother putting his arm around my shoulders and saying, "Come on, let's walk through this together." That's the Jesus who showed up when my mother was slipping between worlds. That's the Jesus who reassured her. That's the Jesus who comforted me. That's the Jesus who stood in the doorway of death with her and with me, not as a religious figure, but as love incarnate. People ask me sometimes, how can you be spiritual and still talk about Jesus? My answer is simple. Because the real Jesus isn't religion. He's relationship. He's remembrance. He's love in a form we can understand. He's a brother to humanity, not a barrier. When I surrendered my life back to God on December 31st, I didn't step into a religion. I stepped into a relationship with someone who had been waiting for me to remember him as family. Not as a distant deity, not as a judge, not as an unreachable Lord, but as my brother. And here's the part I want to make crystal clear. You don't have to call him what I call him. You don't have to use the language I use. You don't have to see him the way I see him. Your path may be different. Your stream may have a different name. Your relationship with the divine might speak in a different symbolic language. And that's okay. But for me, awakening began the moment I realized that my brother Jesus wasn't returning me to religion. He was returning me to love, to myself, to Source, to the Christ within me that had been dormant for years. Jesus didn't awaken me to him. He awakened me through him, back to God, back to truth, back to remembrance. And that's what this path is really about, finding the form of love that calls you awake. One of the most important things I've learned on this journey is that awakening isn't about worshiping someone outside yourself. It's about remembering the divine spark that already lives within you. When Jesus awakened me, something profound clicked into place. He wasn't trying to make me follow him. He was trying to help me remember myself. That is the essence of the Christed state, a level of consciousness, a frequency of love, a way of seeing reality that transcends religion and speaks directly to the soul. Being Christed isn't about becoming perfect. It isn't about becoming holy in a religious sense. It isn't about being better than anyone else. Being Christed means awakening to your oneness with God, living from unconditional love, listening to truth over fear, embodying compassion, wisdom, and discernment, walking in alignment with your higher self, remembering who you were before the world taught you to forget. The Christed state is the blueprint of our original design. It's who we were meant to be. Jesus embodied this perfectly, not to exclude us, but to show us what is possible when a human being is fully connected to Source. He lived as a reminder of what humanity could look like while awake. And the message he carried wasn't worship me. It was follow me into the remembrance of who you are. When I talk about Christ consciousness, I'm not talking about a belief system. I'm talking about a state of being, a state that anyone can enter, regardless of religion, culture, spiritual background, upbringing, past choices, or labels. People across many paths, pagans, mystics, Christians, energy workers, Buddhists, atheists, seekers, all awaken through love. They may call it different names: oneness, Source, the universe, divine light, higher self, God, spirit, the Christ within. The language changes, the symbols shift, the stories vary, but the frequency is the same. Love is the river. Awakening is the current. Christ consciousness is the destination. It doesn't matter which stream you enter from. It doesn't matter what beliefs shaped your journey. What matters is where the awakening leads you. Back to love, back to truth, back to wholeness, back to God in a way that feels deeply personal, intimate, and real. When I say we can all be Christed, I'm not making a theological statement. I'm making an experiential one. I know what it felt like when the Christ light ignited inside me, when love woke me up from the inside out, when my brother Jesus reminded me of the spark I had forgotten, that light isn't exclusive, it isn't rare, it isn't only for a chosen few. It is the birthright of every soul on this planet. Your awakening, no matter how it begins, is ultimately a journey into the Christed state, into love embodied, into becoming who you already are beneath the layers. And the moment you begin to walk in that frequency, everything in your life begins to shift. People often imagine awakening as gentle, peaceful, or mystical. That isn't how mine started. My awakening began with a cracking open, a rupture in my mind, my heart, and my reality that I didn't ask for and didn't recognize as spiritual at the time. There were signs leading up to it, but I didn't understand them. My cousin had been talking to me about the Bible, seeds of remembrance stirring quietly inside me, even though I didn't know what was awakening. Then came the past life regression. I went deep, deeper than I expected, and right at the moment something profound was about to unfold, someone walked in and disrupted it. I snapped out of it with a vision ringing in my spirit. Things are going to have to change. It felt like a message from somewhere beyond me, but I didn't have the language for it yet. And then, the moment everything cracked. It wasn't a mystical experience. It wasn't a vision. It wasn't a moment of enlightenment. It was a church live stream. My dad was leading singing. I didn't know he would be doing that. I wasn't expecting to see him on the screen. And when I saw him, something inside me broke open. Emotion, memory, spirit, trauma, love, longing, all at once. Without understanding why, I typed into the chat, "I'm sorry, Daddy. Please forgive me." And to this day, I still don't know if I was speaking to my earthly father or my heavenly father, or both at the same time. That was the moment the rupture happened, the moment the old reality broke, the moment the spiritual and emotional worlds collided. The medical world called it psychosis, but on a soul level, it was an unfiltered awakening with no framework, no grounding, no guidance, and no context. After I was released from the hospital, the synchronicities began. The signs, the patterns, the strange divine nudges that I didn't know yet how to interpret. Things were happening around me and to me that I couldn't explain, and yet everything felt like it was pointing somewhere. I just didn't know where yet. And then the grief came. The heartbreak, the loss, the moment everything finally opened fully. My mother began slipping between worlds. And for the first time in my life, the spiritual and physical collided in a way I couldn't deny. She told me that Jesus came to her. She told me she had seen him, spoken to him, felt him. And something inside me, something old, hidden, buried beneath decades of pain and suppression, exploded awake. My reaction was immediate. I always knew he was real. I always knew he walked the earth. I just wasn't sure about everything else. Now I'm sure about everything. That was the moment waking up became real. Not the rupture, not the psychosis, not the signs, not the synchronicities. Those were the preparation, the cracking, the dismantling. But love. Jesus coming to my mother, the peace in her eyes, the truth of her experience. That's what aligned everything inside me. That's what made the chaos make sense. That's what transformed confusion into remembrance. That's what shifted awakening from fear to love. I didn't awaken because I was seeking spirituality. I awakened because my heart was cracked open. My mind was broken open. My soul was shaken awake. And then love stepped in. Psychosis cracked me. Synchronicity stirred me. But Jesus awakened me. Not into religion, not into dogma, not into fear. He awakened me into love, into truth, into remembrance, into the Christ light within me that had been waiting for the moment I could finally see. That was the real beginning. When I look back on everything that happened, the rupture, the confusion, the signs, the grief, the moment with my mother, the recognition of Jesus in her eyes, I can see something clearly now that I couldn't see then. Awakening doesn't happen from the outside in. It happens from the inside out. What cracked me open wasn't information. It wasn't a teaching. It wasn't a doctrine or belief system. It wasn't even the signs or synchronicities that came later. And they only made sense once love had already taken root inside me. What awakened me was an internal shift that only love could initiate. Jesus didn't awaken me by giving me new beliefs. He awakened me by touching something inside me that had been asleep for years, the part of me that remembered him, not as my religious figure, but as my brother. He didn't say, follow these rules, or join this group, or believe perfectly. He said, through presence more than words. I know you. I've always known you. And it's time for you to remember yourself. That's how Jesus awakens us. Not with fear, not with pressure, not with guilt, but with something much deeper. A love so ancient and familiar that it bypasses the mind and goes straight into the soul. This is why awakening often feels chaotic at first, because the old structures inside you, the defenses, the trauma walls, the survival patterns, start breaking down, so the deeper truth can finally rise. The breakdown is not the awakening, but it makes space for the awakening. The awakening itself happens slowly, softly, quietly, inside your inner world. It's when fear starts losing its grip. Shame begins dissolving. Intuition grows stronger. Compassion expands. Discernment sharpens. Your heart becomes more open, not closed. Your spirit becomes steadier. Your sensitivity increases. You feel guided even when you don't understand why. And your relationship with the divine becomes personal, not performative. And here's the part many people misunderstand. Awakening is not something you chase. It's something you surrender to. The moment I stopped trying to figure out what was happening to me and simply surrendered, first through psychosis, then through grief, and eventually through love, that's when everything began to make sense. Jesus didn't fix me. He didn't erase the chaos. He didn't magically remove the pain. He walked me through it, step by step, layer by layer, moment by moment, until the inside of me started aligning with the truth he had been trying to show me all along. I wasn't broken. I was awakening. An awakening is not a single moment. It's a process, a shift that continues unfolding as you soften, as you listen, as you surrender, as you open to love instead of fear. Jesus awakens us in ways we often don't recognize at first, through rupture, through love, through loss, through synchronicities, through intuition, through inner knowing, through moments that break us and moments that heal us. He awakens us not by changing our life outwardly, but by awakening the truth inwardly. The truth that we are held, the truth that we are guided, the truth that we are connected to God in ways far deeper than we ever thought. The truth that the Christ light is already inside us, waiting for the moment it can break through. Awakening doesn't start with the light, it starts with the cracking. But once love enters that crack, love does the rest. One of the most beautiful things I've learned on this journey is that awakening does not look the same for everyone. Some people awaken through meditation, some through nature, some through heartbreak, some through a spiritual teacher, some through trauma or loss, some through illness, some through dreams or visions, some through synchronicities, some through near-death experiences, some through ancestors, some through past life memory, some through silence, some through music, some through sudden intuition, and some, like me, through rupture, grief, and the unexpected presence of Jesus. But underneath all of it, under every path, every framework, every symbol, there is one current, one essence, one vibration, one source. Love. Love is the river. Everything else is a stream. You might come into the river from Christianity or paganism or mysticism or atheism or trauma recovery or meditation or sacred text or psychological unraveling or ancestral healing. But the destination is the same. A return to love, a return to truth, a return to the divine union, or a return to the divine within you, a return to the Christ light inside the human soul. This is why I speak the way I speak. This is why I don't use labels like saved or chosen or religion. This is why I don't shame anyone's path or try to force anyone into mine. Because I understand now, Spirit speaks many languages, but love is always the translation. Some people call the source God. Some call it goddess. Some call it the universe. Some call it spirit. Some call it source. Some call it great mystery. Some call it oneness. Some call it Christ-light. And the truth is, the name isn't about what awakens you. The love behind the name is what awakens you. Your spiritual path doesn't have to look like mine. Your stream may have a different name, a different rhythm, a different story. But if it leads you back to compassion, truth, self-awareness, integrity, humility, connection, healing, inner wisdom, sacred alignment, and a deeper relationship with the divine, then it is part of the river. Your path doesn't have to be religious. Mine isn't. Not anymore. Even though Jesus is central to my awakening, I don't follow him in a religious way. I follow him in a relational way, a spiritual way, a brother to sister way, a remembering way. And I honor that your path might speak a different symbolic language. Some people awaken through Jesus, some through Mary Magdalene, some through the Divine Mother, some through ancestors, some through angels, nature, meditation, goddess traditions, spirit guides, some through energy work, some through astrology, some through dreams. But the hallmark of true awakening, regardless of which stream you enter from, is that it leads you toward love, not away from it. Awakening doesn't make you superior. It makes you softer, wiser, more present, more humble, more compassionate, more connected to God, more aware of the sacredness in every living thing. Awakening doesn't make you different from humanity. It makes you more fully human. When we honor one another's paths, we create space for everyone to awaken at their own pace, in their own way, through their own divine encounters. And when we stop trying to decide which stream is right, we finally realize that all lead back to the same river, the river of love. Your awakening is valid. Your path is beautiful. Your relationship with the divine is personal. And no one gets to tell you it has to look a certain way. There is one love behind it all, one light, one truth, one source. How we reach it, that's the part that is as diverse and beautiful as humanity itself. Awakening isn't something that happens out there in the spiritual realm. It happens right here, in the way you live, the way you speak, the way you respond, the way you show up for yourself and others. And when awakening comes through love, not fear, not ego, not chaos, your entire life begins to shift in ways you can actually feel. Here's the real, tangible signs of awakening through love. Not fantasy, not spiritual bypassing, but genuine transformation. Number 1, you become more compassionate without becoming a doormat. Love softens you, yes, but it also strengthens your boundaries. You start to feel compassion even for people who hurt you, but not in a self-sacrificing way. Your compassion becomes wise, discerning, grounded. And you can say, I understand why you're hurting, and I'm not going to let you harm me again. That's awakening. That's love with a backbone. Number 2, you become more sensitive, but also more stable. You feel things more deeply. You pick up on energies, emotions, patterns, intentions. You notice synchronicities more clearly, but you're not overwhelmed anymore. Your sensitivity becomes strength, not weakness. You stop absorbing everything and start observing everything. You feel more, but you're shaken less. Number 3, your discernment sharpens. Awakening through love makes you calmer, clearer, wiser, more intuitive, more spiritually perceptive, more grounded in truth. You begin to sense when something isn't right, when someone's lying, when a situation is misaligned, when a relationship is draining, when a path isn't yours, when guidance is genuine. Love sharpens your inner compass. You stop chasing answers and start trusting your knowing. Number 4, fear loses its authority over you. Fear doesn't disappear, but it stops ruling you. Awakening through love rewires your perception. You no longer react the same way, panic the same way, catastrophize the same way, internalize everything. Instead, you breathe, you pause, you let love speak before fear does. And the more you practice this, the more fear shrinks. Number 5, you begin to notice synchronicities everywhere. Angelic numbers, songs, messages, dreams, perfect timing, sudden clarity, inner nudges, signs that make you feel seen. Synchronicities aren't random, they're alignment. They mean your internal world is matching your spiritual trajectory. You're listening deeper, you're seeing clearer, you're tuned in. But here's the key. You don't become obsessed, you become aware. There's a difference. Number 6, you outgrow people, situations, and patterns. Awakening through love naturally pulls you out of toxic cycles, self-destructive patterns, old wounds, old identities, unhealthy relationships. Not because you're superior, not because you're evolving. You stop tolerating what drains you. You stop abandoning yourself for connection. You stop shrinking to fit into places you've outgrown. You begin walking toward alignment. Number 7, your relationship with the divine becomes personal. You're no longer following someone else's script. You're no longer living someone else's beliefs. You're no longer trying to fit into a box. Your relationship with God becomes intimate, authentic, living, real. Jesus becomes brother, not religion. Spirit becomes companion, not doctrine. Your intuition becomes sacred, not suspect. You begin to feel God, not just believe in God. Number 8, you love yourself more because you finally see yourself clearly. Love awakens the truth of who you are, not in a self-centered way, but in a healed, embodied, grounded way. You begin to see your worth, your value, your identity, your sacredness, your purpose, your gifts, your beauty. You stop running from yourself and start returning to yourself. Number 9, you become more powerful, even when life isn't. Awakening through love doesn't make life perfect. It makes you ready for whatever life brings. You respond differently. You hold yourself differently. You carry yourself with more grace. Even in chaos, your spirit is steady. Even in uncertainty, your heart is anchored. Even in pain, something in you knows you're not alone anymore. Number 10, you start living from love instead of wounds. This is the real transformation. Your reactions change. Your choices change. Your standards change. Your relationships change. Your energy changes. Your entire life begins to reflect love, not trauma. Awakening through love makes you honest, open, discerning, committed to growth, aligned with truth, connected to spirit, grounded in who you are, and softer in all the right ways. This is what awakening really looks like. Not escape, not fantasy, not spiritual theatrics. It looks like becoming the version of you that love always knew was possible. Awakening isn't just an internal realization. It's a way of life. And when awakening happens through love, your daily choices begin to reflect the Christ light inside you. Not in a religious way, not in a performative way, but in a lived, embodied, practical way. Christ consciousness isn't a mystical state reserved for a chosen few. It is the practice of aligning your everyday life with love, truth, compassion, discernment, presence, wisdom, and inner alignment with God. So let's talk about how to live a Christed life in real, simple, human ways. Number 1, slow down enough to feel what's true. Christ consciousness isn't rushed. It doesn't operate from chaos, panic, or pressure. When you slow down your inner world, you can actually hear God more clearly. This can look like taking a breath before responding, pausing before making decisions, checking in with your body, asking, is this love or fear speaking? If it's fear, don't move. If it's love, proceed. This one practice alone will completely change your life. Number 2, practice self-honesty without self-judgment. Christ consciousness requires honesty, but not the brutal, self-punishing kind we were taught. It's the honesty that says, I feel this. I'm struggling with this. I need support. I'm healing. I deserve better. It's truth spoken with gentleness. You can't awaken through love if you're still beating yourself up. Self-awareness is sacred. Self-judgment is sabotage. Number 3, live with compassion, but not self-abandonment. Christ consciousness calls you to have a soft heart, but not soft boundaries. Jesus loved deeply, but he never people-pleased. He never allowed manipulation. He never abandoned himself to keep the peace. Living from Christ's light means caring without being consumed, helping without enabling, loving without losing yourself, being available without being drained. Compassion and strength, not one or the other. Number 4, let love be your first response. Fear reacts. Love responds. This doesn't mean you're never upset or overwhelmed. It means you let love speak first. Before you send the text, before you make the call, before you react to the situation, before you assume the worst, before you make a big decision, you ask, what would love choose here? Not romantic love, but divine love. The love that sees the whole picture. And that answer will rarely steer you wrong. Number 5, stay in alignment, not just intention. A lot of people set good intentions, but don't remain aligned. Alignment looks like keeping your energy clean, avoiding the people who disrupt your peace, maintaining practices that nourish your spirit, grounding yourself every day, staying connected to God, even in small moments. Consistency matters more than intensity. 5 minutes of presence with God is more powerful than 5 hours of overthinking. Number 6, tell yourself the truth about what's not working. Christ consciousness is incompatible with self-deception. If something is draining you, misaligned, toxic, unbalanced, or rooted in old patterns, love will bring it to the surface. Living from Christ's light means being willing to say, this relationship is hurting me. This situation isn't healthy. I'm ignoring my intuition. I deserve better than this. Awakening requires courage, especially the courage to walk away from what love didn't place in your path. Number 7, create daily habits that welcome God in. You don't have to pray for an hour. You don't have to meditate on a mountaintop. Small, sacred habits make the biggest difference. Talking to God while making coffee, listening to a worship song or frequency track, lighting a candle and breathing for 60 seconds, reading a single verse or paragraph that lifts your spirit, journaling one honest sentence, practicing gratitude, noticing synchronicities with reverence, choosing peace on purpose. These become anchors, tiny daily practices that keep you in tune with Christ consciousness. Number 8, walk in integrity, even when no one is watching. Love calls you to your highest self. Integrity doesn't mean perfection. It means alignment. It means being honest even when it's uncomfortable, doing the right thing without needing credit, staying true to your values, choosing authenticity over image. Integrity is one of the clearest signs of spiritual maturity. Number 9, treat yourself as sacred because you are. Christ consciousness teaches you that your body is a temple of divine intelligence. Your mind is worth protecting. Your spirit is worth nurturing. Your heart is worth honoring. This can look like eating food that supports your body, drinking water, resting when exhausted, speaking kindly to yourself, forgiving yourself, releasing shame, choosing environments where your soul thrives. You cannot walk in love if you walk all over yourself. Number 10, stay connected to your brother Jesus, but not through religion. Jesus awakened you, but not through dogma. He awakened you by relationship, by presence, by truth, by love, by memory. Continue walking with him that way. Talk to him like a brother. Share your thoughts. Ask for guidance. Sit in stillness and listen. Let him walk with you in the mundane moments. He doesn't need religion to reach you. He needs openness. Christ consciousness isn't about belief. It's about embodiment. It's about living love, walking love, breathing love, thinking love, and choosing love in a very real human way. This is how awakening becomes a lifestyle. This is how it becomes sustainable. Awakening through love changes everything, quietly, consistently, beautifully, from the inside out. As we come to the end of this teaching, I want to leave you with something simple, something steady, something true. Awakening isn't something that happens in a single moment. It isn't something you achieve. It isn't something that makes you superior or special. Awakening is a relationship with love, with truth, with yourself, and with a divine presence that has been walking beside you your whole life, even when you couldn't feel it. For me, that presence is Jesus, not as a religious figure, not as a distant deity, but as my brother, my guide, my companion, the one who stood beside me in the fire and stayed until I found my way out. When everything in my life cracked open, when my mind broke, when my reality collapsed, when grief swallowed me whole, he didn't reach for me with judgment. He reached for me with love. Awakening through love isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It isn't forceful. It's gentle. It's steady. It's familiar. It's the voice inside you that whispers, "You're not alone. You never have been." And the truth is, you don't need religion or doctrine or perfect beliefs to walk this path. You don't need to say the right words or pass the right test or fit into the right box. You simply need openness. Openness to love. Openness to truth. Openness to remembering who you are and who you belong to. Awakening through love is about walking softer, listening deeper, loving wiser, discerning clearly, living intentionally, honoring your path, protecting your peace, and following the gentle pull of spirit within you. Jesus doesn't need perfection from you. He needs presence. He needs honesty. He needs your willingness to let love guide your next step, even if you don't see the whole path yet. And here's the most important thing I can tell you. Awakening isn't about arriving. It's about becoming. Becoming more compassionate, becoming more grounded, becoming more discerning, becoming more aligned, becoming more connected to God, becoming more fully yourself. There is no race. There is no competition. There is no way to be behind. If you are awakening through love, you are exactly where you need to be. Jesus walks with you as a friend, a guide, a brother, and a companion on this journey of returning to wholeness. You don't have to do this alone. You never did, and you never will. So let your awakening be gentle. Let it be real. Let it be messy. Let it be honest. Let it be guided by love, the kind of love that never leaves, never forces, never shames, never abandons, the kind of love that awakens. If this teaching has blessed you, encouraged you, or helped you in any way, I would love for you to partner with me in continuing this work. You can support HavenLight and the Awakening series by donating through Buy Me a Coffee. The link is in the video description. Your support helps me create more teachings, more resources, and continue the mission God has placed on my heart. Thank you for being here, and thank you for walking this path with me.